What do they call you? Wheels?
So, now that the Age of Revelation is finally over, what exactly did Future Cyclops get up to in the present? Well, join me, Wheels, as I break down everything that happens in X-Men issue 23, the first epilogue to the Age of Revelation event. Written by Jed MacKay with art by Tony Daniel, the book opens exactly where the previous issue concluded way back in September. Cyclops welcoming Revelation, aka Doug Ramsey, to the X-Men before his mind is suddenly pulled forward to year 10 of the Age of Revelation. As we learn during that event, Future Cyclops swapped places with his present self. And now that he's here, what does he do first? Well, hit Doug with an optic blast, of course. As Bay and Warlock respond, Scott dodges their attacks and walks through his plan out loud, taking out Quentin before he can stop him psychically, evading Psylocke and Juggernaut, punching Glob in the face, separating magic from her soul sword, etc, etc. He's had 10 years to assess and plan and formulate how he would handle this situation, on how he would kill Revelation. And with the soul sword in his hand, Future Cyclops lunges to end the Age of Revelation before it can ever begin. But Beast tackles him and prevents him from committing murder. Unlike Scott had expected, Future Beast did not swap places with the 80s clone version of himself, but instead the original Hank McCoy. And so his perfectly executed plan fails at the very last second, and this time-travelling Cyclops is jailed in the brig. While contained, this older version explains what has happened to the X-Men's leader, how he's currently 10 years in the future and all that. Beast asks how they can switch them back, but their prisoner is adamant on completing his mission. And Hank is furious, believing that present Cyclops is dead. To him, this Cyclops is a monster, willing to doom his younger self just to commit murder. Older Scott doesn't disagree, but he's a monster that the Age of Revelation turned him into. And future Hank is a monster too, by present Hank's standards, considering he helped organise this mission. With his intervention, Clone Beast didn't save a life, he's doomed a world. Also, I just find it very ironic that 80s Hank is so aghast at using time travel to try and prevent the end of the world, when his future self does that exact same thing in 2012, when he brought the original X-Men from the past to the present. It just goes to show how much Beast has changed since the 80s. Later, reeling from the attempt on his life and all this new information about the future, Revelation and his wife Bay the Blood Moon are discussing the current situation. Bay thinks they should leave, but Doug is still convinced that these are the X-Men that are meant to help him achieve his goal. When EDA walks in, Doug explains to her that they've developed their own form of hand speech to communicate with each other, as Bay's ability interacts weirdly with Revelation's own mutant power, so she's the only person that he cannot understand. Temper finds that romantic, but immediately rebukes Bay for referring to her as Krakoan, and almost challenges her to a fight, something Iraqi mutants like Bay take extremely seriously. EDA pushes back on this label due to her less than positive experience on the mutant island. She was placed in the pit, which was Krakoa's very own version of jail, for killing humans that were attacking the island. However, the pit had secretly been moulded by Sabretooth, who had transformed it into a hell of sorts. Doug Ramsey, as the voice of Krakoa, was essentially her jailer, which she brings up here to Bay. Revelation promises to resolve their history once he's done being the mutant Riker, who both Temper and I have absolutely no idea about.
Who?
But after doing some research in the Marvel Universe, Harlem Riker will be responsible for some cybernetic technology, potentially the Deathlock program. However, due to his importance in technology, time-travelling Deathlocks from the future have attempted to kill him over and over and over again. For the Heir of Apocalypse though, he'd take a future Deathlock over a future Scott Summers any day of the week. And with that, Future Cyclops breaks free from his containment. As the factory goes into lockdown mode, this ruthless Scott finds and confronts Magneto, stating to him that Doug has to die. Max is apprehensive, as this is not the Cyclops he's known for decades at this point, but asks why he, of all of the team, is being approached. The X-Men's leader reveals that he can't kill Revelation by himself. That's why he tried to use Magic's Soul Sword earlier. Apocalypse's transformation has made him incredibly strong and durable, but Summers believes that Magneto would easily be able to defeat him with his Omega level abilities. Whilst this is a compliment, this just makes the Elder Mutant irate, seeing it as some form of mockery, questioning how he is expected to kill the heir of Apocalypse whilst he's currently powerless and unable to walk. For those unaware, ever since the post-Krakoa era began, Magneto has been visibly older, using a wheelchair, and without powers. And from tests, this has been deduced to be a new disease known as resurrection-linked degenerative syndrome, something only Max has shown signs of so far. This legitimately confuses Future Scott, as the Magneto in his timeline never lost his powers, which is corroborated by Future WizKid, who had absolutely no idea what RLDS was when present-day Cyclops asked in Amazing X-Men issue 3. This can only mean that some time travel shenanigans is afoot, whether the Age of Revelation is a different timeline, or what I think is more likely, someone has been altering the past. Of course, returning from the future, evil Hank McCoy now knows how to use Schwarzschild to time travel, and I wouldn't put it past him to invent a disease to weaken Magneto in the past. And that would also mirror how in the original Age of Apocalypse event, Dark Beast was sent 20 years into the past and was revealed to actually be behind the Morlocks. But that's just a theory, an X-Men theory. With this new development, Scott has to revise his plan, but in this moment of pause, trained assassin Canon sneaks up behind the time traveller and subdues him. Once again, jailed in the brig, this time with a reinforced helmet, Doug Ramsey wants to get answers from Future Cyclops. He wants to understand what he does to ruin everything so that he can avoid it and prevent the future. However, the prisoner refuses to tell him anything more and is convinced that the only way to stop the Age of Revelation is by killing him. Especially as Revelation's voice control ability means no one can truly say no to him, something this version of Cyclops experienced firsthand. So, instead of helping him, Future Scott Summers promises to continue to come after Doug until he is dead. Quoting the IRA with, "You need to be lucky every time. I only need to be lucky once." This threat terrifies Doug enough to make him rethink his decision to stay with the X-Men. And so, the heir of Apocalypse, the Iraqi warrior Bay the Blood Moon, and the Technoc alien Warlock leave the factory undetected and go into the night. Revelation may no longer have the X-Men's support, but he's still going to change the world, whether the world wants to change or not. Now, I thought this issue was a lighter, less dense story. It's good, but not the big punch I was hoping for when opening a brand new era. Frankly, I think it's slightly undercut by the fact we already know that Future Cyclops fails his mission. There were some character moments I appreciated though, particularly the conversation between EDA and Doug, and I really like that her history on Krakoa is not being ignored. I suppose it will be interesting to see where Revelation actually ends up. I'm going to assume he starts working with 3K, but we shall see. On the art side, Tony Daniel's work was fine, nothing really stood out to me, and unfortunately I think the colours and the inks made everything seem a little muddy, and I know this creative team can do so much better, considering I've already read issue 24. So with all of that in mind, I'm going to give X-Men issue 23 a rating of 6. And that's my breakdown and review of X-Men issue 23. But what did you think about the issue? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Where do you think Revelation will go? And do you think RODS is even real? Let me know down below in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And maybe think about subscribing if you haven't already, if you want to keep up to date with what's happening with the X-Men in 2026. With that, I'll see you all in the next video.